Good afternoon. I'm Laura Sipe, Interim Director for Strategic Engagement and Alumni Relations for the College of Engineering. And I hope you enjoyed that video clip of some of the before and after of the Bridge Street District. We're excited to be talking about the district today as part of our first ever virtual Buckeyes Connect Cbus Plus event. I know some of you joined us for our last Buckeyes Connect event, which seems like ages ago now, but it was only in February back at Brewdog in Canal Winchester, and it was one of our most highly attended events. So I'm excited that you're back for this event and that you're taking the leap with us into the virtual space. Thanks for joining us. Before we get underway today, I wanted to go through just a few housekeeping items. First, if you do need access to closed captioning, go ahead and click the closed captioning button on your screen, and that service should be provided for you. I also want to take a moment and thank those of you who submitted some questions in advance for our conversation today. I know Megan and Tim are looking forward to addressing those in the second half of our presentation. But speaking of questions, before we get well underway, I want to take a moment and just get a pulse on those of you who are here and whether you have been to the district before. So hopefully you see a poll on your screen right now. This is your chance to participate. If you have visited the Bridge Street District, please weigh in, yes or no. We're going to take a look at that. I know it's a very popular destination for me. I love to go visit the restaurants there, and personally, I'm really looking forward to the opening of the new North Market. It'll be so nice to have that closer to home. So it looks like our answers are in, and the overwhelming majority of you, let me share, have actually been to the district. So that's great. Thanks for joining us tonight to learn a little bit more about it. And so our second question we're going to ask is, what exactly is it that you are interested in learning more about in today's conversation? Whether you're looking for some history on the project, the future of the project, who was involved, anything along those lines. We just want to get a sense of what you're looking for. And then I know I'm pretty confident Megan and Tim can address almost any questions you have about this area. So we'll just give it a few more moments to give a chance for everyone to weigh in. We're getting lots of good responses. Okay, let's take a look at what you want to learn about today. So it looks like people are looking at the future of the district, but it's pretty evenly divided. So it should be a great conversation. So with that being said, I am excited to welcome two alums from our Buckeye Engineering and Architecture family. Here joining us is Megan O'Callaghan, who is the Deputy City Manager and Chief Operating Officer for the City of Dublin. She is also a Bachelor of Science graduate from our Civil Engineering program. And Tim Schmalenberger, who is a principal and co-founder of the firm MKSK, and also a graduate Bachelor's of Science in our Landscape Architecture program. Now, without these partnership between these two organizations, the Bridge Street District would not be what it is today. So we're excited to have them both here to tell us about it. So with that, Megan and Tim, let's take it away.
Great.
Good afternoon. I will start sharing my screen. Hopefully everything works okay. Okay, are you able to see the first slide? Yes?
Not yet.
No? Okay, let me try again. Okay, are you able to see the black screen for now?
Yep.
Yes? Okay. Was that a no or a yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Now I will go in presentation mode. Now can you see the first slide, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Ohio State College of Engineering, for having us, and thank you to everyone else for joining us. We're honored to participate in this event, And we love sharing the story of the Bridge Street District, and we really loved sharing it through an Ohio State platform. I did graduate from Ohio State just a few short years ago. And I really enjoy opportunities to remain engaged with the university and the college. I really wish we could have hosted this event in the Bridge Street District, but unfortunately that just wasn't in the cards this time. I'm glad to hear that most of you have had the opportunity to visit the district though, and I hope that you like what you saw. I'm also glad to hear that you're interested in a wide variety of topics having to do with the Bridge Street District. So hopefully this presentation will touch on all those aspects and be of interest to all of you. If you haven't visited the district, I would encourage you to do so or invite you to do so. Hopefully through this presentation, we've included enough video and pictures that you will feel as if you've experienced the district, albeit virtually, and that'll invite you to visit our downtown area. The Bridge Street District, just as an overview, is a significant initiative, and it's been a tremendous undertaking for the city. We've been engaged in this effort over a decade, and it's involved the redevelopment of the district into a much denser, mixed-use urban environment. It's very different from what it used to be. This introduced density into a suburban community, so there was a lot of planning and community engagement and thoughtful consideration that went with it. And also we had the goal of making sure that it was done right. So there was just a lot of planning and looking ahead and making the best decisions possible. I joined the city in early 2014, which was about the time that the planning efforts were wrapping up, and it was time for implementation to begin. So it's been a very exciting and transformative time for Dublin. It's all moved unbelievably fast, and it's really fun to put together presentations like this and take a look back to see what all's been accomplished in such a few short years. It's been very fun, rewarding, and challenging. I'd like to start off by giving recognition to the team effort. We've been very fortunate to have had visionary city council members, visionary city managers and leaders, including Dana McDaniel, Marcia Grigsby, Terry Fogler, all of our extremely talented Dublin staff, excellent industry partners on the planning and engineering fronts, as well as contractors. And of course, the private development team of Crawford Hoyne and others is key to the success of the district. And also kudos to the entire community who was engaged in all the processes along the way and has really embraced all that the district has to offer. I just can't say enough about the importance of the team effort. I also think it's important to share the City of Dublin's strategic focus areas. Each time that we undertake a new initiative or review current initiatives, we make sure that they're furthering at least one of our strategic focus areas. Dana McDaniel, our city manager, he likes to say that these are the areas around which we all rally around, and these are vital to our success. And when you look at the Bridge Street District and the redevelopment, it really has furthered all 5 of these strategic focus areas, which is critically important. So the area shaded in green is the City of Dublin, and the Bridge Street District is the area in orange, and it's identified on the screen. It's bounded by Sawmill Road to the east, 270 to the north and west, 33 and along 161 Bridge Street and it also includes our historic district. Overall, this is a zoomed in view. Overall, the district is about 1,200 acres or 6% of the city's overall area. So it's a pretty significant area of the city. These are a few of the key landmarks that fall within the Bridge Street District's boundaries. There's historic Dublin toward the center of the screen, the Scioto River running north and south through the area. There's the OCLC campus towards the western end, and Dublin Village Center to the east along Sawmill. The visioning, concept, planning, and implementation strategy occurred between 2008 and 2012. A group of city council members, planning and zoning commission members, and city staff visited Greenville, South Carolina in 2008. The purpose of the trip was to see a community that demonstrates many of the principles and design objectives of the 2007 Dublin Community Plan that would eventually be incorporated into the Bridge Street corridor. It's a similar sized community, has a vibrant downtown, a mix of residential, office, and retail uses. They make the most of the river amenity. There's an iconic pedestrian bridge connecting parkland on either side. It's really a great area. It's vibrant, and it's some place that you just want to hang out and be. After that visit, that group returned to Dublin, and council expressed an interest in developing a unified vision for the center of Dublin and development around the river, including an iconic pedestrian bridge. So the vision for this part of Dublin really became a priority at that point in time. From there, beginning in May of 2019, there was a concerted effort to develop the vision for the Bridge Street District. The city engaged Goody Clancy to manage a visioning study for the Bridge Street corridor. Goody Clancy had extensive expertise in urban planning, historic preservation, and development, and there was an extensive public engagement process. And in 2010, City Council adopted the long-term community-supported market-based vision and principles that would guide the future of the corridor, and also developed an implementation strategy. The vision statement at the time was that the Bridge Street District would be a vibrant center for the city with highly walkable districts and neighborhoods, parks on both sides of the river, mixed uses so one could live, work, and recreate in all throughout the district. The district would provide choices and variety. It really was about enhancing the city's economic vitality, provides all types of exciting places that are attractive to talented and young professionals, startups, others who just aren't interested in living, working in a traditional suburban office park type setting. So really the theme of what I just described is that the Bridge Street District is all about choices, housing, places to work, modes of transportation, and different environments to enjoy. So following that process, the city undertook a series of studies to look at how the vision would then be implemented. So there was studies surrounding or taking a look at the transportation network, the utility infrastructure, and to the zoning regulations. City staff and the consultant teams worked together with City Council, Planning, Zoning Commission, Architectural Review Board, and the Board of Zoning Appeals on completing the implementation studies that were necessary to support this development and to bring the vision to light. All through that time, there was also growing interest in developers that wanted to take part in developing the plan. So this slide shows the Bridge Street District area plan that was approved as part of the community plan update in 2013. And you'll notice that the emphasis is on the grid street network and connections that would distribute traffic throughout the district. And that would become the foundation for the new development. The plan also addressed mobility from a bicycle and pedestrian perspective. This is the bicycle network that was planned at the time. You can see the purple lines are multi-use paths. The pink was a cycle track. The network was to be a very important component of the vision. I mentioned that it was important that the district be walkable and bikeable and that it have increased connectivity and mobility. So I just wanted to highlight this portion of the plan. And then once the planning foundations were laid for the entire district, the city began in 2013 to focus on the Scioto River corridor, a smaller portion of the overall Bridge Street District. One of our highest resident priorities that we heard at the time was that it was identified that they wanted to provide more parkland and open space along the river. So at that point, we started to garner land along the river and acquire land that would become future parkland. So from the concepts produced in this initial corridor framework planning effort, we then quickly advanced to preliminary engineering in the spring, summer of 2013 for all of the key public projects identified in the planning effort. And those included the State Route 161 Riverside Drive roundabout, the Riverside Drive realignment, a Dale Tuller connector, and the Riverfront Parks and Pedestrian Bridge. So the goal of those preliminary engineering efforts was to advance the planning for those projects so that they would get to the next stage, We would prepare preliminary cost estimates, and we would get those projects to a point where we were able to move them forward quickly into design once City Council programmed funding for them as part of our 5-year capital improvement program. So that planning effort concluded with a public involvement process in the fall of 2013. It's important to note, and you'll hear this as a theme throughout the entire presentation by both Tim and I, it's important to note that in order to make this vision become a reality, we needed all 3 of these components. The public infrastructure would lay the foundation for the transportation and utilities and open up spaces for public open space and parks. And then finally, absolutely key was the private development and the investment to bring it all to life and reality. And we were fortunate to find a great partner in Crawford Hoyne. Now we start to transition from the planning stage into implementation and designing and building some of the public improvements as well as the private developments. So in the fall of 2013, this was a big milestone. City Council approved their annual 5-year capital improvements program. And in that program, it included preliminary project costs and timing for several of the key public improvements that were needed to make all of this come to life or reality. That included the Riverside Drive realignment, the roundabout at Riverside Drive and 161, the iconic pedestrian bridge, and the Riverside Park. So this was the first point in time that we had budgets programmed or programming level estimates and budgets approved by City Council so that we could move forward with the implementation and design of these projects. So in early 2014, City Council then directed staff to proceed with the final design for these projects. And construction on portions of the street network began later in 2014. So we moved rather quickly to get to construction. And the first road that we built was John Shields Parkway. The vision for that roadway is that it would eventually connect Sawmill Road and extend west across the river, and it would become an important new road parallel to Bridge Street. Riverside Drive realignment was key to propel all of this development and parkland because we needed to pull the roadway away from the river and open up the parkland along the river. So that was key to get that project under construction so that we could get that roadway into its final place. Very early on in the design, as we were scoping some of the public projects, there were a lot of questions being asked about aesthetics or the character of the roadways. So rather than going through the process of answering all those questions, you know, do we want asphalt? Do we want pavers? What do we want the intersections to look like? What type of curb do we want? Rather than going through the process of answering all those questions for each project individually, as we typically would do, we decided to take a more comprehensive look at the entire Bridge Street district and develop a streetscape character guidelines document that would lead staff and developers and guide them in their specification development for projects. So the first step was to identify or characterize the different types of streets within the district, and then each type of those streets would have a different level of finish. We wanted the district to have a unique feel. We wanted someone to know that they were in the district upon entering it and anytime that they're moving around within the district. So that's when MKSK came into the picture and they helped us develop, they were in the picture before that and they had performed significant work for us before, but they helped us develop this guideline document. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Tim to share more about the development of these guidelines and the principles behind them.
Great. Essentially, we were creating a kit of parts. So it gives a roadmap for development and developers. So obviously the street network, was established, it's put in place. And then people start planning, obviously, the design and implementation of each of their projects. And so if you can take care of the streetscape materials, for them, it just makes it a lot easier. It makes the whole district come off as a very cohesive development from that. And so essentially, it was a very simple kit of parts. It was using all natural materials, clay pavers, granite curbs, and obviously street tree plantings that meet the new standards, for Dublin, infiltrating pavers within the parking areas of the streets. So a lot of the green infrastructure is built into this system as well. Okay. As you can see, as the materials, were developed, for not only the Bridge Street district, you can see some of the more customization type things. Again, using natural materials, steel that's been lasered in different manners, the clay pavers, the granites, seat walls, curbs, certainly plant beds, edged in that, so that it's easier to maintain long term. We're about to go into the winter season here again, and so curbs and planters and along streets makes it easier to keep salts and stuff out of the landscape, keep the landscape looking well for a streetscape. And then this plan is more or less the kind of the development plan as conceived early on, and Megan mentioned the movement of Riverside Drive away from the river. And the big idea there was essentially so that when you got into the park, you have to cross the street, to get into the park. But once you're in the park, you can travel from the east park to the west park across the pedestrian bridge or into the river without ever having to engage a street. And so that was one of the primary ideas, big ideas in relocating Riverside Drive, is to get park space along the river corridor. If any of you have been up there, there's a lot of topography, so it's kind of fun to look down into the river, especially when you can get closer to it. These are the block lines. They're all kind of labeled out, and they've been chipping away at all the blocks. Now they're on block G currently out there. Okay. Next slide.
So this is a graphic that we referenced a lot as the project progressed, and we use this as a visual in our communications quite a bit. The grayed out areas were existing, and the infrastructure and the buildings were shown in the brighter colors. And all of that has been new in the last 5 years. Bridge Street District, it's a development on the east side of the river by Crawford Hoyne. That development on the east side of the river spans 30 acres alongside the river. It integrates retail, residential, all within a walkable neighborhood, features condominiums and apartments, restaurants, office, a hotel and conference center. It's been built in multiple phases and continues to be built in phases, built out. Project also includes lots of parking, both on street as well as structured parking garages. And there's a lot of awesome views of the river and the pedestrian bridge. So as we took off into implementation full speed ahead, we quickly realized just how much work was on our plate and how fast everything was moving. So the engineers hopefully will enjoy this part of it. We realized how fast it was moving, how many moving parts there were, how we had projects in very close proximity with one another. Many projects were abutting one another. We had multiple project owners, numerous contractors, and we really decided that we needed to have staff who could dedicate all their time focused on managing the work that's going on in this area of town. So because this was such a peak in our workload, we decided that we needed to tap into consultants for support. So we retained a program manager, Mandy Bishop. She served as an extension of Dublin staff, and this was her sole focus, was the implementation of these public and private improvement projects. She was supported by a staff of critical path method schedulers and construction inspection and administrators as well. So this is an example of the critical path method schedule, just one example that was developed during all this construction. Each month, a guy named Dan Weiss, he would stay on top of all of the project schedules. He would gather up all the updates to the schedules, and he would compile those schedules into a master project schedule, or a master program schedule, rather. That effort really helped us identify critical path for projects, determine who would get to an area first. It really helped with coordination and also helped us identify potential conflict points. So I can't say enough about the program management and scheduling services that were provided, and how important it was to make sure that everything was pulled off as smoothly as possible. So the first significant, excuse me.
Any of you dealing with schedules and you saw how steep the tick marks were across that schedule, realizes what what kind of an effort that is when you see a schedule that steep, the graphic aspects of it. It was a busy place, still is.
I apologize. I was triggered to unmute. This is the first significant public improvement. You can see this is an aerial of the before of the Riverside Drive State Route 161 intersection and the Riverside Drive hugging the river. This was a picture that was taken during construction looking northeast. You can see the new realigned Riverside Drive starting to take shape, as well as the roundabout. And this is another view a little further along during construction looking north. This is a close-up picture of the roundabout. We were able to maintain east-west traffic across the river for the duration of construction, which was very important to the community. In the background, you can see the development starting to come out of the ground. And then this is the finished product. It opened up, as we've mentioned before, it opened up the parkland. Roundabout is safer in terms of severity of crashes, much more efficient. We were able to restore all movements. So all turns are allowed in all directions, and it will accommodate traffic volumes well into the future. And plus, with roundabouts, there are aesthetic benefits with the landscaping that we can accomplish in the Central Island. So all of this investment going on also spurred redevelopment and investment in historic Dublin. So a new Columbus Metropolitan Library Dublin branch was rebuilt on its former site. It opened in mid-2019, and if you haven't seen it yet, it has a striking award-winning design. It's 2 stories. There's double the space, including community gathering areas and a cafe, and it's really been a great amenity in historic Dublin. Also in the historic area, the city, in partnership with the library, built a parking garage, which is really valuable resource in historic Dublin. We had a shortage of parking previously. This also opened in mid-2019. 200 of the parking spaces are reserved for library parking during library hours. The remainder of the spaces are public parking, and anytime outside of library hours, those spaces are available for the public to use. So now we'd like to shift the presentation to share Riverside Crossing Park, which will be one of our most important public areas in our community, connecting our downtown. The west side of the park is envisioned as a more naturalized area with connections to the Indian Run Greenway, water access, and trail systems. The east side of the park will be more active, and it'll feature areas for public gatherings, cultural events, recreational programs, planting beds, scenic river overlooks. There'll be a lot going on the east side. The 2 sides of the park will be linked by the pedestrian bicycle bridge, with public plazas providing access to the restaurants and shops and a new library and the broader mix of destinations, both east and west. So I'm going to hand it back over to Tim to talk more about the park and the master planning with the next 4 slides.
This initial concept here, we thought it'd be important to, every big idea comes up with a very simple sketch, to essentially organize the thoughts and the patterns and where you're going. And obviously the connection from the east side to the west side, to old Dublin, to the new commercial residential area, it was key. Trying to walk across the vehicular bridge was just not very pleasant. Sharing with cars and stuff. So, and the pedestrian bridge obviously created a a focal point catalyst, big idea for getting people back and forth across. And then this sketch basically shows that the architecture and the development occurs along the park. And the park space is really like your waterfront, if you will. It's the frontage of it. And so as development continues, it's basically oriented all along the green space. And then in its kind of final form, or at least most recent form for the parks, this is what's illustrated. You can see the Riverside Park on the east side, which is under construction currently, along with the pavilion and everything that goes along with that. And the west side of the park, which Megan talked about being more natural. There's the topo is a little more forgiving on that side, so the accessibility is a little easier for both pedestrian and vehicular to get down into it. And especially from the pedestrian bridge and the bluffs overlooking it, you can it's got great views all over it. The red in this picture just kind of accentuates the frontage, the waterfront, for the real estate and future development. And so orienting development around green space, obviously provides, park use for residents. It's very pleasing to drive by. And one point I will make is that, early on in the planning process, if you can imagine all the development that's in the east, there's a lot of talk about Old Dublin and not wanting to lose that. And so if you single loaded, the river, in other words, try to develop just one side, you can see that there wouldn't be clearly enough real estate to do it. And you would ruin the old town, so spreading the two apart and then reconnecting it with the pedestrian bridge ended up, making a lot more sense and a higher and better use, of, the existing development as well as new. And this here basically is the master plan for the park. And you talked about all the elements that would be in it over the years, and it's going to take several phases to get through this. Now, turn back over to Megan at this point. Here's the pedestrian bridge and the plazas on each end. And if you've been out there, the East Plaza is under construction right now. The pavilion is up. You can see your arrival, and then it's direct access to Bridge Park. And then the West Plaza, into Old Dublin, I think has been very surprising. There has been a lot of activity in restaurants over there. Of course, the new library, and so people freely flow back and forth across this bridge, even in the colder months of the year. You certainly expect that to continue on. Here's the picture of the West Plaza as it would look back to the east. And there's a ton of restaurants on this side as well. Here's a video kind of walkthrough of the bridge and the plazas and the parks. What's planned. So obviously the bridge is there. And this is heading east to the new plaza. And what you don't see under that plaza is a whole maintenance area that's accessible by the bikeway. And this here comes to the fountain area, which drops down and heads north into the park. City areas, you see the bike path along the river, which is where old Riverside Drive was at. Built-in seating. A lot of this is granite. So the last many years. Here's the promenade along the park side of Riverside Drive at the upper level, where you would look down into the park to the right, Bridge Park, and Riverside Drive to your left in this video. Then we turn you back to the plaza where the pedestrian bridge drops off, and you can enter Bridge Park to the left. And this the structure here on the left is just about up. This is at the bikeway pedestrian level that goes under the pedestrian bridge as you travel along the river. You get a little surprise fountain. Hear a lot of water noise. And of course, you can escape the streetscape if you desire. Ooh, there's a fresh picture.
We have found the use of videos to be invaluable as we have communicated this initiative over the years. It's really difficult, unless you're an engineer or an architect or used to working with plans, it's really difficult for folks to envision what something's really going to look like from looking at construction plans. So videos have really, really helped with our communication and engagement efforts with our residents. This is a very recent picture of the East Plaza taking shape. To see the Riverside Crossing Park progress in real time, if you're interested, we do have a live camera showing the progress on our website, so be sure to check that out. This is a high-level look at the schedule for the park. You can see that the lower plaza and the green are anticipated to be complete by next fall. So transitioning to the pedestrian bridge, this is a early concept rendering that the public embraced through those public engagement processes that I mentioned. We've made every effort to maintain all the elements of the design concept through the design and construction processes. The architect is Andres Studio, based out of California, and Paul Andres was part of the design team, and we also continued to consult him throughout construction. So we really, really held true to that concept rendering. We had an amazing team of global industry partners who contributed to the design and construction of the bridge. We used a construction manager, general contractor, or CMGC project delivery method, and that was the first time that that delivery method had been used on a public or a horizontal highway type project in Ohio with that industry. That was a challenge in itself, but we found it very necessary and appropriate considering the complexity of the structure. Design was initiated in 2015 and it concluded in early 2017. The design team was led by T.Y. Lin, and they are an award-winning engineering firm. The team was out of California that we worked with, and they included several firms as subs to them, as shown on the screen. Design team stayed involved all through construction, which was critical. We ended up selecting Kokosing Construction as the contractor through a qualifications-based selection process. They did a great job serving as the CMGC, and I just can't say enough about the team, how hard they all worked. They're brilliant. They all worked so well together, and they really served us well working towards the vision that we wanted to achieve. Bridge is super unique and complex. First of all, it's a cable supported suspension bridge. It has an S-shaped deck, passes through a main tower. Steel beams are triangular in shape. You don't see that every day. And what all that means is no two beams are alike. Every single form that was used to build the pylon was unique. So this entire bridge is very custom. The cable system had to come from Europe because there's only 3 companies in the world that could fabricate the type of cable system that was specified. These are a few construction pictures of the main tower. It took about a year to build. These are a couple pictures when we were installing the steel beam through the pylon, which was pretty cool. Cable system I mentioned was fabricated in Europe and Italy, and it took about a year, including all of the testing. There was extensive testing performed. It took about a month for the cable system to come across the ocean to be delivered to Norfolk. And then it took another few days for it to actually make its way from Norfolk to Dublin. That was an exciting day. Installation of the west main cable was relatively straightforward. It was uncoiled, hanger clamps were installed, and it was attached to the pylon with a pin. These are a couple pictures. A few more pictures of the hanger clamps being installed when the cable system started being a reality. This is an aerial picture of the S shape. Our lighting system is state-of-the-art, LED, color programmable. There's handrail lighting, pylon, eye of the needle, both up and down. pylon base up lighting, hanger cable lighting for each cable. Looks pretty cool. We've been able to play with the color programmable features of it. These are a few nice pictures I'll flip through. There we had a red, white, and blue theme for holiday. On the right, we had gold and purple. These are some of the stats of the PED bridge. It's 169 feet tall to the top of the pylon, 760 feet long, with 500 of those feet being suspended, the rest being elevated walkway. 14 feet wide to accommodate both pedestrians and bicycles, and there's 43 total cables. We did have a camera mounted at the top of one of the buildings that captured the entire construction process. So what's interesting to watch is you'll see watch the elevation of the river go up and down. That was a significant challenge for construction, because whenever the water was up, that area was flooded, the contractor wasn't able to work. So that did delay things a bit. But you can see that pylon being built over the course of a year. Then you'll see the deck start coming into shape. And then the cable system. So I'm really glad we did this, because we've also been able to leverage this to help with communication during construction. I think our residents really liked tuning into the live cam and checking out progress as well. And then finally, when it came time to name the bridge, we did engage the public and asked for their assistance, and we received over 1,400 submissions, and hundreds of folks suggested that we call it the Dublin Link. So that's where we landed on the name, and it's appropriate considering it's linking two sides of the city. We had planned a big celebration for Friday, March 13th, and that was going to include fireworks. Unfortunately, our plans were crashed by COVID-19. That was the week that it hit us. So we had to cancel. Hopefully we'll be able to hold a celebration at a later date, but we did end up opening the bridge the next Monday quietly for the public to use and enjoy. These are some stats for Bridge Park, Crawford Hoyne. You can see over 800,000 total development square feet for office. And you can reference this graphic later on if you're interested. There's still a lot of construction activity going on, and Crawford Hoyne continues to build out the blocks that are shaded gray. These are some pictures from popular events in the district that's been hosted, including Forfest, Dublin Market. Dublin Market's very popular Saturday mornings. And then it was mentioned earlier that we're excited for the North Market to open up. And that's planned for November. There have been 15 tenants announced to date, and they're building upon all the great things from the North Market that you're all familiar with, and it should be really awesome. So that concludes our presentation. I sped through the end of it, hopefully, because we're a little over with the presentation portion, but that was a decade of information boiled down to 30 minutes or so. So I know it was a lot. Thanks for your interest. Feel free to check out any of these websites if you're interested in learning more, or feel free to reach out to me directly. Thank you for your time, and I would invite you all to return to visit the Bridge Street District anytime, and be sure to practice all the COVID-19 safety protocol, of course, while you're visiting. So I'll turn it back over to Caleb.
Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you, Tim. I don't know about you, but we are looking forward to the time when we can actually hold an in-person event at the Bridge Street District. I think the Urban Meyer Pint House sounds like a lot of fun for an OSU alumni gathering. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have Bridge Street the sequel in the coming months or so. So now I want to go ahead and turn things over to our audience for questions. So again, if you do have questions, please go ahead and enter those using the Q&A button, which you should see at the bottom of your screen. But we've gotten a few in advance already. So the first we actually got from two different alumni, Kathy Spatz and Kaylin Akers. Both asked, what was the most challenging part of the project from each of your perspectives? So Tim, let's begin with you. What was most challenging?
I think early on, this is more on the planning side, is just getting everything organized in a simple diagram for the connections. Certainly the Goody Clancy plan, laid a lot of the groundwork, for, in this area, of Dublin. And then to start the first piece, around the river, and then how to link Old Dublin with the Bridge Park area, and all that organized and all the pieces, parts in the in the right direction, and then convincing everybody that was the the right direction to go. And I remember our group, our planners, and Darren Meyer and Chris Herman in particular from our office, spent a lot of time in small group discussions, with the city planners, city council people, just trying to get everybody in on the big idea and the form that it started to take. And then obviously when you start to involve developers, right? So fortunately we had a single developer step forward and want to just take ownership of the whole project from that end, and they've done a fantastic job to date on that. But once all those three parts came together, then it started to become much easier. It became more of an implementation project. Early on, when you're cooking up the big idea and what forms it takes, that's always the most challenging part. But if you can get that right, then everything else tends to fall into place with it. And so I think that's what we understood, experiencing it and working through the process, with everybody.
Megan, what about you from your perspective?
So I would say from an engineering perspective first, I would say that it was all of the moving pieces and parts and projects occurring in similar or in close proximity to one another, all with different schedules, with competing interests, with different contractors, different owners. So it was a lot to manage and coordinate, and it all was happening so quickly. And you definitely didn't want to be the project that was going to hold somebody up. So just constant communication with the design teams and the construction teams, and just keeping a handle on who's doing what, where, who's going to be where first, figuring out who does it make sense to build what. So we did some trade-offs. We had agreements because, we needed to be in an area, but somebody else needed to be working in the same area on the sidewalk. So, hey, maybe it makes sense for, us to reimburse you for building that since you're going to be there second. And so there was just so much coordination that was tough. So that's from the engineering perspective. And then from the city leadership perspective, I would say, the change. Dublin, this area of Dublin saw a lot of change in a very short time. So, engaging the public, helping them understand the why, working through issues, communicating, the why, and also having the conversation, making sure everyone had a voice and making sure everybody that was engaged saw follow up. And, this is engineering, architecture, and being able to successfully communicate what we're doing, when, where, and all the details to all of our residents and visitors. So communication and education was also a significant challenge, but it was fun.
I'm glad you think it's fun. I think the results are definitely worth it. Yeah. Would you say, just hearing you both answer that question, would you say, was there any element from your education that you got here at Ohio State that really helped you feel equipped to deal with some of the challenges of this project? Maybe Tim, if you'd like to address that.
Yeah, I can go. I think, the design process and what they teach, at least what I recall being taught, is how to juggle, 10, 15 balls at once. And just keep your eye on the ball and keep forwarding the design. But the design and engineering professions and planning professions are wrought with people who can keep many balls in the air. And when you're doing projects like this, that's really the whole game. I still kind of cringe every time I see Megan's project management chart there and how steep that is. Right, in a sequential planning thing, to see it very steep like that, and many people who I'm sure have chimed in, understand that. And you go out there, and it looked like ants, ants on a hill out there at times, at the height of various construction sessions. So I think, we were pretty well prepared for that, but it takes years too. And a lot of what you learn in school doesn't really hit home until you're actually out practicing and you go, oh, that's why they were making that point to us from that end. So I've had other professionals tell us that, that our Ohio State students have been very well prepared for, their practice in landscape architecture.
So could you address, we have a question here from Kevin Lynn, who is a recent graduate from mechanical engineering, who asked about the expected lifespan of the pedestrian bridge and if there are any maintenance plans in place to ensure its longevity.
Yes, so the bridge has a 75-year design life. However, we expect it to last much longer with appropriate maintenance. The design and construction teams were charged with drafting and developing a maintenance manual for the City of Dublin to follow moving forward. Ohio Revised Code requires annual inspections, so there will be annual inspections performed on the bridge. Routine maintenance activities include cleaning of the pieces and parts, a scheduled deck sealing, overlay activities, and structural steel painting on a routine cycle. Typical concrete lifespan between overlays of the deck is between 15 and 20 years. We'll most likely get much longer than that because there's no vehicular traffic. Cables, the cable system I mentioned was very difficult to procure from Europe. But those are special cables. They are a closed system design and there's no maintenance required, which is one of the reasons why we selected that system. There are the clamps that need to be maintained and cleaned, but the cables, they're galvanized for corrosion resistance in a marine environment. And there are plans, the maintenance manual is very lengthy and voluminous. And there's plans in there in the event that one cable is damaged. It talks about how we would go about replacing a single cable. So yeah, there's extensive plans in place for maintenance or routine inspection and maintenance of the bridge.
I think I might know a few alumni who might actually enjoy reading some of those extensive manuals. So thank you for talking about that. Great. Oh, it's such fun.
Yeah.
So we have an alum, Ron, who's asking if there are opportunities for kayaking or canoeing on the river in the area.
There are, yeah. Part of the master park plan and the highlights of the park planning effort are to provide access to the river. There's currently access up underneath the 270 bridge off of Riverside Drive. But yes, part of this, or a main element of the planning effort, is to provide additional access to the river in this area, more visibility of the river. We really want residents and visitors to be able to take advantage of that amenity. So yeah, you routinely in the summer months see kayakers going down the river under the bridge and taking a look at the bridge.
So speaking of accessibility, we've got a great question here from Evan, who is asking, what are the challenges that are presented by the fact that the district is bordered by I-270, and if there are any plans to put in more exit or on ramps to the freeway to help deal with some of the traffic flow issues?
I saw Tim open his mouth. I didn't know if he was on mute or not, but.
Do you want to take that one, Tim?
No, I was thinking, I think what's nice, about when you travel over 270 right now and you go over the bridge, the river at 270, is that you can look over and you see the Bridge Park District. That doesn't mean you can exit immediately, and this is primarily when you're heading eastbound, right? You're coming up from the south and you're making the curve and you come across the river and you look across, you get a great view and you go, wow, what is that? And you see the bridge, a spire sticking up as well. So then you would immediately, basically exit at Sawmill Road and make your way back. And that's where the John Shields Parkway comes into play. There's probably some signage and et cetera up on Sawmill Parkway that will need to, to get upgraded as this area gets more filled in. But, I enjoy, that view. And I think that area, it would be difficult to have an additional exit exit off of 270 there, just because of the way that, the topography is and 270 and all that is. But I think people will find their way back to that. Fairly
Yeah,
easily.
270 with Sawmill and over on 161-33. That does provide good access points for the district. And we've had that interchange improvement, 270-33 interchange has been enhanced. And we're taking a look at the Sawmill corridor to improve traffic operations there. There's also been thought of, and we're in the process of studying another bridge crossing over 270 parallel to Sawmill. So that's in the very early study stages, but we always are looking at ways and opportunities to improve traffic operations in the area and improve accessibility and mobility.
So speaking about improved traffic operations, we have a question from Kelsey, who's wondering if there are plans to evaluate and make adjustments to the roundabout for any safety issues. And I believe that some of that has already happened. I think I heard in the news that they did some marking of the lanes to make it a little clearer in the roundabout, but maybe you could speak to that, Megan.
Sure. So the State Route 161 Riverside Drive roundabout is our most complex roundabout. It has multi-lanes. And we did find that drivers were experiencing some challenges following the signage and deciding which lane to enter and also staying in their lane within the roundabout. Also had some folks choosing to enter the roundabout at maybe an inappropriate time. So we did spend some significant time studying the operations of that roundabout. And a couple of years ago, we made some improvements that made a significant difference. It's important to point out that, roundabouts improve operations, they're much more efficient, and they also improve safety overall. When you look at safety and crashes, you need to look at the frequency of crashes, which is the number of crashes, but also the severity of crashes. And we have seen a significant decline in severity of crashes. So the crashes that do occur, or when they occur, they're very, very minor in nature. They don't involve injury. They're typically property damage, fender bender type accidents. So we're very pleased with the performance of the roundabout in that regard. As of right now, we aren't looking at any modifications to the pavement. We are always evaluating the pedestrian access and pedestrian crossings. We actually recently completed a crosswalk enhancement study that gave us some ideas of ways that we could improve the pedestrian crosswalks in that area. So hopefully that answered the question.
It sure did. And so the last question we've actually gotten from two different people who are interested in the projected total cost for the development.
Oh, wow. I haven't added it up recently. I know at one point I heard 300 million or so, but I would hate to give bad information, honestly. Tim, have you heard any newer numbers?
No. Yeah, we haven't.
A lot. Let's leave it
allow either.
Sounds good. Round numbers, they're the best.
No,
well,
there's been a significant investment, both public and private.
Great. Well, we're really excited to reap the benefits of that investment and enjoy the district. So I want to say thank you, Megan. Thank you, Tim, for sharing your information today. And I want to let everyone know you do not have to take our word for what is going on in the Bridge Street District. We are going to share with you some insider content, and we hope that you'll take this opportunity to go out and explore the district on your own. You'll be getting a virtual guide from us with maps of the area and points of interest. So before the weather turns too much colder, hopefully you'll have plenty of time to get out and explore this area and see some of these new developments for yourself. So there are lots of other ways that you can continue to stay connected with the college. If you have questions about anything that you heard in this event today, or any of the latest developments at the college, please do reach out to me. My information is here on the screen. I would be happy to make connections directly for you. And we have a whole variety of different other activities that you can participate in. First of all, we are going to send all of the folks who joined this event live today a copy of the attendee roster. And the reason that we're doing that is that we can't all gather together in person. We still want to help you build your Buckeye networks. So I hope you'll take this roster, reach out to somebody on the list, and maybe make a new Buckeye connection that's valuable to you right now. We also are going to send you a survey about this event, and I would highly encourage you to take that survey because we're trying to find new virtual activities and programs that we can provide to you that are going to meet your needs. So we need to hear from you. What topics are you interested in? What would you find valuable right now? And that will help us try to produce that content for you. So please take that survey when you see it at the end of this event or in the email that we will send afterwards. You will see on the screen, we have 2 more virtual events coming up very soon. On Sunday, November 15th, if you have ever wondered what would happen when students from around the university and around the nation gather together in a virtual hackathon for 42 hours to create apps and code together, this is your chance to get a firsthand look. At that November 15th event, we'll be presenting the top 10 hackathon teams, and they'll demo the projects that they've worked on. And then you'll have the chance to vote for a winner in the Buckeye Choice category. It should be a lot of fun. I hope you can join us and see some of our students doing what they do best. Then on November 17th, we are launching the Engineering Cures for Cancer event series. We're really excited as a college to be partnering with the Comprehensive Cancer Center to create the brand new Center for Cancer Engineering here at Ohio State. And this event, Dean Williams will be showcasing 3 of our engineering researchers and the life-changing work that they're doing in the detection, prevention, and treatment of cancer. So please join us. I know that cancer has touched many of us individually or many of our loved ones, family, friends. It should be a great evening of learning and discovery. Launching in November, in early November, is our Triple Match Pay Forward program. This is designed for our alums who have graduated within the past 10 years who would like to make a contribution anywhere in the college, whether it's a student org, their home department, or just an area that they're really interested in. When they make that contribution, their gifts will be tripled thanks to the generosity of some of our alumni who graduated a little more than 10 years ago. So if you are a younger alum and you're interested in contributing, or maybe you are older and you're interested in supporting philanthropy in the next generation, check out that website, go.osu.edu/triple2020. Though it doesn't launch until November 4th, all the information is there. We'd be happy to get you connected to that program if you are interested. And then I'll say it again, the best way to stay connected, to see the latest news from the college and be the first to hear about our upcoming activities is by following us on our different social media channels. If you do not already follow us, please subscribe as soon as you can. That's often our first line of communication with the public about all the amazing things we're doing here. So again, on behalf of myself, the College of Engineering, thank you to Tim, thank you to Megan. We're so happy that you joined us today. Have a great evening and go Bucks.